Just going to wait for you guys to come on in. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. How's it going? Good morning, Shai Shiro. Good morning. This is your first time tuning in. Definitely comment. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Good morning, Ziki Tube. How's it going? Hello, AAK Blast. Timoya, good morning. I got some bad news today about some immigration stuff. Good morning, Luca on YouTube. Hi, YouTube. Hi, Facebook. Hi, Instagram. Oh, thank you so much, Shidima. I really appreciate that. Someone's asking to talk to me privately. Please call to schedule a consultation. 407-995-6567. AAK Bless, sure, ask your question. Someone said waiting on good news. Amen. Amen. I hope you get good news. Let me introduce myself. My name is Aisha Chidole, and I'm an immigration lawyer. I represent clients all over the United States with their family immigration and humanitarian-based case. If you'd like to schedule a consultation, you can call 407-995-6567, or you can also send a WhatsApp. We don't take calls on our WhatsApp, but you can send a call to 404-333-8751 and leave your number, and then we can call you back. I'll repeat the number slowly. Let me type it in here. So it's 407-995-6567 or WhatsApp. Let me put the WhatsApp. Guys, let me, it's so hard to type when my phone is mounted on this thing. It's WhatsApp, okay. 404-333-87. Thank you so much, Wavy staff, for posting. All right, I'm gonna pin it here. Let me pin it. Okay, let's jump right into it. So feel free to ask your questions. I see someone saying they want to ask a question. You can ask a question. Somebody said, can I DM you? Honestly, I don't check the DMs. You should probably not be sending DMs to me. If you want to schedule a consultation, schedule one, because I would never get any work done, like if I'm like reviewing, DMs. But yes, someone asked, is the PIP shut down? Right now it is. So for quick context, for those who don't know what she's asking, I'm sure you guys have heard about Biden's new policy that allows those who have entered the country without inspection and who have been here for more than 10 years since the rule came out in June and are married to a U.S. citizen, it created a path for them to be able to get their green card without having to leave the country. But as of yesterday, court in Texas, granted what we call a temporary restraining order, meaning nope. We're not going to be making any decisions on this again. And right now we're just going to be waiting on, I guess, both of the sides to present their case, for them to decide. Right now there's still a limited window to put in the application. We just don't know what's going to happen to it. It kind of reminds me of DACA. Somebody just asked about DACA, which is kind of where DACA is right now. And it's like in the abyss where, you can put in your application, but it cannot process your case. So it's very frustrating. And, this is sort of giving me flashbacks of the previous administration where, so many things have violated the Constitution and blah, 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 blah. So this will be law today. And then the next week we'll hear it's not law. So we'll have to pull back our application and refile the application, pull back this application and file this application. And it's a preview of what's to come if administration changes. A lot of times, people say, why are you immigration lawyers like trying to make us panic or whatever it is, about elections. But honestly, you should be panicked. You should be panicked because y'all, immigration is the biggest contender most of the time, even more so than economy. When it comes to presidential election, both sides are going to be discussing immigration and, pandering to whatever base, so it is really important that when your family members, maybe not, because if you're here and you're not a citizen, you obviously can't vote. But when your family are deciding to vote for someone, that they're making sure that they're not voting against their interests, and voting against your interests is voting for someone who has made it their duty to deport immigrants. or to not allow immigrants get their green cards, because it's not just about people who enter the country without inspection, meaning people who cross the border. It's the fact that in the previous administration, you had people who no longer qualified for a marriage-based case because they didn't pass the well test. And what is a well test? Your test of English language. What is your income? What is your so before what health insurance do you have? When majority of immigrants don't even have social security numbers. So they created such a barrier for people to get their green card, even though they came into this country with a B1, B2, or tourist visa or a student visa, where it favored the elite. Like, you had to be wealthy basically to be able to get it. So it's really something that is not something to play with. If you have family members who are immigrants and you face the risk of being separated from them, if the rules change, in a way that is unconstitutional. So it's really important to make sure that, jokes aside, that we're, that you're being mindful in your conversations with your family members who have the privilege to vote, to make sure that they're not voting against their interests, because their interest is also your interest if they care about keeping you here. Okay. It says, what does it mean when your valid case is transferred to a new office? What that means is that you probably started out in Nebraska, which is where we submit applications right now. And then typically they will transfer to Vermont, who processes and adjudicates. Adjudicate just means review and makes decision on valid cases. So that's probably what happened. Someone on YouTube is asking, how long does valid approval take after work permit is granted? The two are not tied together. Valid takes 2 to 3 years on average, and this time could vary depending on if you have a request for additional evidence, if you have a notice of intent to deny, but you're going to fall somewhere within that window. Kamuj says, you're a great lawyer. Thank you so much. Marcia says, good morning. How long do you have to wait after submitting your medical and affidavit of support and all requirements before you receive your green card? The timeline varies. They have to review it, but I would say that maybe if you've not heard anything in 6 months and you do a total calculation, your case has been maybe pending for after 12 months, then you can definitely do an inquiry, because, from your question, I'm going to assume that you're a marriage-based case. And with a marriage-based case, timelines are on average 6 to 13 months. I'd say it's the average to either be granted a green card or to be called for an interview. Jenna says, good morning. One of my favorite immigration lawyers. Thank you. Let me see if I can read this question. Ronald is like, I am going to write this in bold to make sure you can read it. So let's read it. For an international graduate student above 21 years old in the United States whose parents are U.S. citizen, is it possible to adjust through the parents without having to leave the United States? I'm obviously going to give you the legal answer, which is that it depends. So technically, if you're over the age of 21 and you're in school, your parents can file an I-130 for you. However, you're still subject to the visa bulletin. The visa bulletin, I don't know, today is August 27th, so September should be out. I don't know what September is off the top of my head without checking, but typically, you could be looking at like 5 to 8 years, depending on, what your priority date is. So what that means for you is that in order for you to stay here and not leave, you have to be in status the entire time that you're waiting. The minute you go out of status, you will have to leave because you're over the age of 21. Some ways that you're able to do that is if you're a graduate student, depending on what you're majoring in, you can do a master's. Like if you're a graduate student, you can do a PhD. You can do a STEM related major. When you do STEM OPT, you get another 3 years. So these are just ways to kind of like, keep your time and keep yourself legal here while you're waiting for that, visa bulletin to make you eligible. So those are some options. Somebody asked, if I may ask, how long does it take for USCIS to approve renewal EADs? Renewal EADs can take 9 months, up to 9 months on average. If you do apply for an EAD before your current EAD expires and you are in one of the automatic extension categories, your receipt acts as an extension. So even though your actual card has not been renewed, your receipt is an extension of your EAD. So you can use that. And if you have an employer that's not sure about that, the laws are written right there in the USCIS policy manual that, can be provided to them. I have a VAWA case since 2 years ago. Can I still apply for parole in place? Kamuja, I don't know when you tuned into the live. I just talked about the fact that parole in place is on hold right now. They can't make a decision on those cases. I mean, if you meet the requirements of Biden's parole in place, this new law, and you enter the country without inspection, but technically you actually can't, because you just said you're a VAWA applicant, which means that you're obviously not in marital, like you and your spouse are not together, or I don't know what's going on. So I'll definitely need a consultation to talk about it, because really these are for people who are married to a U.S. citizen. So I don't know what your situation is with your spouse. Can you marry outside the United States and file in the U.S.? Yeah, you can. What are the steps and requirements to get in a work permit? In order for you to get a work permit here in the United States, you have to have another petition that makes you eligible. There are many ways, if you can get a work permit if you're a victim of abuse. You can get a work permit if you are married to a U.S. citizen. You can get a work permit if you are a recipient of a T visa for human trafficking, labor trafficking, sex trafficking. You can get a work permit if you're a victim of a serious crime, U visa. You can get a work permit if you're a student on OPT. You can get a work permit if you are an investor. Your spouse can get a work permit, that way, like there's E2 visa, so there's so many different ways, so it just really, so the question is just too broad. We need to know what you qualify for to tell you what exactly will get you that work permit. Okay, so Alex asks, what is the I-131F parole in place? Again, this is something that I just talked about just like 10 minutes ago. This is Biden's new law that basically allows those who enter the country without inspection. When I say enter the country without inspection, it means you did not come with any visa or passport. Nobody is aware of your coming, basically, to the U.S. You crossed a border, land, boats, sea, or whatever. Married to a U.S. citizen, and you've been in for 10 years, counting back from June. It's either 15th or 17th of June. However, as of yesterday night, this law or this rule is on hold. 16 or 19 states, guys, I don't remember all those things off the top of my head because I just don't remember, filed a lawsuit against this new rule and against immigration, and the Texas judge granted what we call a temporary restraining order, meaning stop this application for right now. Yeah, you can submit it. They won't reject your application, but they're not going to process your application until they decide whether this is constitutional or not. Yeah. What does it mean if USCIS says VAWA case has unresolved issues that needs thorough review? I've never heard that before, and I do thousands of these. So who told you that? Who exactly told you that? Is it safe to travel the U.S. outside of the U.S. with an advanced parole while your green card is in process? The answer will depend on what stage you are in your case. Typically, if you don't have any immigration history, you haven't been called for an interview, you've not received a request for additional evidence, usually it's fine. And you didn't apply, and let me add, and you didn't apply for asylum, you don't have any removal procedures pending, any deportation orders. But if all these other things come to play, then we have to look at each case individually to say to somebody, you should go here, or you shouldn't go, or you don't recommend going, or whatever. My husband is filing for my son. He submitted the I-130 last July. How much longer before I hear from them? Hopefully soon, because you're definitely in the window. So hopefully soon. How much for a consultation? It's $150. Is it okay to collect government benefits while waiting on my I-360 approval? So Cutie Love, like with the VAWA application, they don't penalize you for from public assistance. However, you should never, ever, ever claim to be a U.S. citizen on any documents whatsoever. And speaking of claiming to be a U.S. citizen, obviously the election is coming, and I can't tell you how many times people will have an amazing case, and then I'll ask them, have you ever voted in an election? And they'll say, yes, I voted in an election. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a false claim to citizenship. And that bars you from getting a green card. So please, guys, if you do not have US citizenship, make sure you do not vote on the election because you're not eligible to vote. Okay. Do you take over cases that are at adjustment of status point if another firm did the visa? Would need to see what the case is and what exactly you're wanting us to take over, before we accept it. We don't just accept blindly. We need to make sure that, it's a case that we want to take, and a case that, represents our firm very well because, I'm all about integrity. I believe that a good part of our success here is that USCIS, we don't play around. We don't bring frivolous applications. We make sure our stuff is together. Yes, a lot of times, people try to do stuff themselves and make a big mess, and they bring it to us because they know that we do quality work. And, we're okay to fix messes, but it just depends on what the mess is, that we're fixing. So we would have to see it to know whether or not we can take it. I reapplied and sent in my documents, but I didn't receive any receipt or nothing. I don't know who to call or anything. I don't know what kind of case that you're submitting, but if you applied, it is really important that you always have a tracking number to prove that your document was sent over. But what you can do is you can try the 1-800 number, the USCIS 1-800 number. You can just do a Google search for USCIS 1-800 number. And maybe you can speak to one of the reps there and just ask them, because if not, and you've not received the receipt or anything else, two things are possible. One, your case didn't get to the right place. That's number one. Or number two, it got to the right place, but there's something in your application that's incorrect. And so what they will do is they will send the entire packet back. It's just that it can take them months to send the entire package back. So you just kind of be waiting, like, I don't have a receipt. I don't know what's going on with my case. And then one day you get a big packet in the mail and it's a rejection for you. At 10 years and a green card, can I process for the kids? Billy, I'm assuming you're saying that you have a 10-year green card and can you file for your children? Yes, you can file for your children, but if your children are over the age of 21, you can file for them, but they cannot be married. If they marry, then they're no longer eligible. Heather says, after an interview for a green card, how long is the wait for it? The answer is going to depend on your own particular case, what the officer is reviewing on your case, investigating on your case. That's what will determine the how long it takes. If after 6 months you have not heard anything, then you should do an inquiry. So you can get a decision literally the day of your interview. You can get an interview the week after your interview, 2 weeks after your interview, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. You see where I'm going with this? There is no published timeline because each case and each officer is going to review and make decisions differently. I've had officers saying to my clients when they're like, I'm going to review your case. I'm most likely going to approve your case, but, I take time. So it might take me 30 days. So don't go calling and saying I haven't heard a decision if you haven't heard something in 20 days because it takes me time. And, they were true to their word. We've had another officer that was like, oh, I'm definitely approving this case, and didn't approve that case for like 5 months, so it's really hard to say. Okay. Oyinka says, best lawyer and best law firm in the USA. Yes, tell them. Thank you so much. And Chef Davis says they are my lawyer. They are the best. Thank you so much. I'm loving and feeling all the love today. I really appreciate you guys. Do you charge for a quick consultation? Yes, I do. Do you have any services that you offer? Would you do it for me for free? Probably not. Um, so if you have a quick question and I can answer it, you ask it on here live. But I definitely respect people who respect my time and value my time. I come on here and I give you guys free information, free tea. I mean, you guys can use this and do whatever you want. And I feel like that's my way of giving back to the immigrant community. But you also have to think about immigration as not something where, let me just get a quickie, let me just talk to this lawyer and talk to that lawyer and talk to that lawyer and get little information here, little information here, little information here, and I'm going to put all those things together. At some point, you have to say, I'm investing in myself, because it's not about me. It's not about any other lawyer. This is your life. This is your future. This is your legacy. What I mean by legacy, for those of you who've been following me a long time, my own story. My parents came here as student immigrants, like however many years ago, met each other, fell in love. They had 3 of us in this country. We moved back to Nigeria when we were younger, came back here when I was 17. And, that act by my parents and following this path legally and having legal advisement to do it has created a legacy for them, for not only them, for us being able to file for my parents who are able to be comfortable here in the United States, for me and for my children. Whereas I may never have had this if they didn't make the right choice. So when you think about that, it's an investment in yourself and your future. So if you are willing to buy, a designer bag, a designer shoe, a lovely fancy BMW or Mercedes Benz, like invest in your own self and something that changes your legacy. So that's how you should always look at things. Because I know, like, a lot of times we as immigrants, we might be willing to invest in things that don't necessarily change our own outcome on the internal and long term, but we're more interested in what it shows on the outside to other people. So sometimes you just have to think about it that way. It's for yourself and for your children and for your children's children. Because of my parents and what they invested, I'm able to be here pouring into you guys and changing many people's lives at that, not only my children, but I'm here doing this because this is something that impacted my own life positively. So let me jump off my soapbox. I'm going to take 2 more questions and I got to jump off. Can I travel to another state with my Jamaican passport? Technically, yes. Technically, should you be going? If you don't have status, probably no. So it depends. Are you a green card holder? Do you have a work permit? Do you have a travel permit? If you don't have any of the following, and you are and you're filing for adjustment of status, there is always a risk that you might just end up in one of those airports where they're doing those random checks, and then you find yourself in a detention center. So by flight, not comfortable with it. If it's by road, not a big deal. But if you're flying, it's always definitely a risk, What does it mean when they say your prima facie is granted? This is the last question I'll take today. It means that basically you have met the minimum elements of a VAWA self-petitioner. And with that comes certain benefits. And the benefits vary by state. Every state is different. Some states will allow you, for instance, get a driver's license, whereas some states wait for you to get your work permit, right? A prima facie determination letter allows all children that you have under 21 to also be listed on there, meaning even if your children don't live in America, even if your children never lived with your abuser, if you get approved for VAWA and your kids are listed in your prima facie, your children will get approved for VAWA. So what you would have to do is take that approval and then file for them, with either an adjustment or consular processing. Also, if you want to go back to school, a prima facie determination letter will allow you to go back to school, and get aid for school. So that's some of the benefits. And then in some states, it will also allow you, if you're like in between housing because of an abusive, spouse or child or parent, like you can get housing, but this is very state specific. And a lot of states, I'll use New York, for example, you cannot be like, if they're going to provide housing for you, you cannot be living with a person that's, abusing you. So I hope that covered it all. If I didn't get to your question, schedule a consultation, 407-995-6567. Even if you don't hire me, a consultation will at least get you on the right path and get your questions answered. I hope you guys have an amazing day, and I will chat with y'all later.